Hello guys, FootballSim here. Today we're looking at Real Madrid and asking one key question. Can Xabi Alonso lift the club out of its current crisis and rebuild the squad after a disappointing season? One of the core problems we need to talk about is the retirement of Toni Kroos. At the end of last season, few in Madrid seemed to realize how big of a void he would leave in the midfield. But before we dive deeper, was Toni Kroos really that big of a deal? Well, let's hear what some of his coaches had to say. For example, Zinedine Zidane was praising Kroos by saying Kroos will be remembered as one of the all-time greats in his position. And also Pep Guardiola. Toni is a very intelligent, very brainy, very calm player. He's the bravest of them all in the most difficult moments. And of course, some teammates found some nice words regarding Kroos. Like Casemiro, he said Real Madrid matches always go in Kroos rhythm. He's one of the most important players at the club because he manages the ball and the rhythm with which we play. Of course, there are many more interviews, but these were just for example to show you how great he really was. Now, the season 24-25 is over, and Real Madrid is not where they wanted to be. So it's fair to say the compensation, it did just not work. So let's take a deeper look into the squad and try to find out how they did try to compensate this loss. So for me, the best alternative in the current squad is Dani Ceballos. Well, however, he's not the same type of player, but at least he's a player who can dictate tempo and structure to a certain degree. However, he likes to play way more vertical. Still, whenever he played, Real looked more composed and more in control. The problem? He did not play that much in the beginning of the season, and when he finally was in his top form, he got injured. So, is he the long-term solution? Probably not, but he's definitely a player to keep in the squad. The next player is Luka Modric. Still great, no doubt about it, but simply too old to play 90 minutes on top level every 3 days. So he's obviously not the long-term solution. Don't get me wrong, when he plays he's still one of the most intelligent players in the world. But it's just something Real Madrid can't rely on anymore. He is now a player that can come from the bench to calm the game or to play the important matches. Actually, that's what they used him in the past season. But he just can't deliver anymore. So in addition to that, he leaves the club at the end of the season anyways. So maybe we should take a look at the young prospects like Güler, who might be one who is going to fill this role in the future. But right now, he is just not ready. He did not play regularly, and the times he played, he seemed sometimes a bit lost. That does not mean he won't make it, but as for now, he doesn't fit in this role. So he has great potential, and I'm sure he will make Madridistas very happy in the future, but it just needs some more time. And of course, I have to mention Jude Bellingham. He is an elite level player, but he's no tempo setter. He plays more in instinct, brings high physicality, and operates in a simpler, more direct way. In simple words, he's not a maestro, he's a fighter. To Federico Valverde, honestly, most of the same things apply here too. He is the engine of the team, seemingly tireless, prototype box-to-box midfielder with a highly vertical and explosive play style. But just like Bellingham, he's just not a tempo setter. So, well, just let's go over to the next one. Last but not least, we have Kylian Mbappe, the big Galactico signing of the summer. His performances were superb, especially towards the end of the season, but his job simply isn't to build up the play, it's to finish it. And he has done that brilliantly, as he won the Pichichi Award and also the Golden Boot. So what can Real Madrid do now? Well, they could be active on the transfer market this summer. So let's go over some external options. The most obvious, and in my opinion perfect fit, would be Rodri. He is an elite holding midfielder who combines physicality with tactical intelligence, perfect to control the tempo, so I give his tactical fit 5 out of 5 stars. Another candidate would be Enzo Fernández. He is a press-resistant, relatively deep-lying 6 or 8 with vertical instinct and solid defensive contributions. However, he is not a perfect fit, so I just give him 4 out of 5 stars. The last one I want to talk about for the last of these 3 would be Allister from Liverpool. He also fits the profile. He's a balanced number 8. With his structured and clean build-up play, he could for sure take over Kroos' role. However, he doesn't usually drop that deep, so I'd rate his tactical fit 3 out of 5 stars. But as you might have guessed, these 3 aren't realistic transfers. They are under long-term contracts and they have really no real reason to leave their clubs. So are there other options? Yes, there are quite a few. But let's focus on just a handful now. The first option would be Martin Zubimendi. We consider him a tactical 6, an intelligent passer with excellent spatial awareness. He is also very calm under pressure, so with the right transfer offer, Real Sociedad is most likely not able to keep him. So for his tactical fit, I give him 4 out of 5 stars. So I think he would fill the void quite well. And with Xabi Alonso set to take over as the head coach, it now also makes sense to talk about our next player, Florian Wirtz. However, as an attacking number 10, he operates much further up the pitch. He brings great creativity and a new dynamic into the attacks. But to fill the Kroos role, he'd have to completely transform his game. So if Madrid wants him as a direct successor of Kroos, he would have to operate much more out of the midfield and play essentially a bit more conservative. So overall, just 2 out of 5 stars for his tactical fit right now. And also, he's linked with several other clubs that don't already have so many high-level offensive players like Real Madrid. So we have Real Madrid as Vini, Mbappe, Rodrigo, and also Brahim Diaz. So I think it would also only make sense for Madrid to pay this high transfer sum if Alonso specifically demands Wirtz. What he maybe does, we don't know right now. And the last one I want to talk about is Nico Paz. He may fly under the radar a bit, but he had a great season at Como in the Serie A. And also Madrid has a cheap buyback clause since he was developed in La Fabrica. He has a creative number 8 and intelligent passer with playmaker instincts. So right now, I'd rate him 2.5 out of 5 star, but he has a high potential and could be a valuable addition to the squad and also a promising prospect for the future. And well, there are also several other midfielders and a lot have been linked with Real Madrid, like Bruno Fernandes, Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes. They're all top level players, but I think none of them would bring something Madrid doesn't already have or need right now, well, at least not this summer. So what can we expect from Real Madrid in the 25-26 season? Well, let's look at some possible tactical setups. Of course, any unconfirmed transfer are purely speculative, but we have to work with something, and so let's take a look at the formation. So with a potential signing of Zubimendi, Madrid could continue using the familiar 4-3-3 system. So of course, the goalkeeper would still be Thibaut Courtois. And I also expect the club to bring a new left back and move on from Mondi. So we'll either see Fran Garcia or a new signing, possibly Miguel Gutierrez, Milos Kerkez, or Alvaro Carreras. In central defense, with the arrival of Dean Huijsens, it is most likely that he would pair with Raúl Asensio. And I also think Huijsens is a great addition. His playmaking and long passing ability will help conduct the game from the back. On the right, we would have Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think there's no explanation needed. He's a smart fullback with high-level football IQ and will likely also influence the rhythm of the entire squad. In midfield, we will have Bellingham and, as already mentioned, Zubimendi and also Valverde. So Zubimendi would take over the Kroos role, while the other two would do what they can best: win balls, create space, and drive the game forward. And the front three, Vinicius Junior, Mbappe, and Rodrigo, I think there's no really introduction needed. They are fast, they are direct, and they are dangerous in front of the goal. So, but what if Zubimendi doesn't join in the summer? I think Real Madrid can essentially use the same setup, just with Zubimendi replaced by Tchouaméni or Ceballos. But as we saw this season, that might cause some problems. In this version of the formation, I expect Madrid to sit deeper and rely on quick counter-attacks using their fullbacks. Or they let Bellingham and Valverde do more of the running themselves and let them carry the ball. I would call this approach "let the runners run." Just move the players, move the ball with the players. So as the name suggests, that the players, they constantly move forward and also backwards, obviously. That also means that the players have to cover a lot of ground, because we also have to shift the lines accordingly. So over time, this would become definitely exhausting. And additionally, we run into another problem, because what if the opponent sits deep too? Well, a problem we saw often this past season. So a solution would be to bring in a traditional striker, something Madrid lacked this season. If they can't break down a defensive block, they need to sub in a striker who is an aerial threat. That way, the fullbacks and wingers can deliver crosses into the box that don't simply turn into a lost possession, as we often saw, last season. Or another approach, maybe the most interesting approach, would be that the system will be switched to a 3-4-3 setup, a system we often saw under Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen. So this now includes in the midfield 2 8s who connect the defense with the attack, and the fullbacks who push wide and provide width and attacking presence down the flank. So naturally, with this setup, on one side there's an overload created, and I believe Real Madrid could be deadly in those situations. The front three all know how to operate in tight spaces, and combine that with technically skilled fullbacks, and these attacks will be very hard to stop. And of course, this leaves space on the far side, especially if this pitch gets even tighter up there or in this corner. But with 3 defenders staying back, the team should still be defensively secure. So where does that leave us? Real Madrid is facing a tactical shift. With Kroos gone, there's no clear successor. Not internally, and realistically not on the market. However, as we saw, a player like Zubimendi could help Real, or they could bet on the young players like Güler or Nico Paz. They might develop into the role. But for now, it looks like the system itself has to carry the control and not a single player, and that's where Xabi Alonso comes in. If anyone can bring structure, tempo and tactical clarity back to Madrid, it's him. So guys, let me know in the comments, what do you think? Does Real Madrid need a new midfield general, or is structure more important than any single player?